Have you ever pondered about the most isolated place on Earth? It's a question that might lead you to think about mountain peaks, desert expanses, or perhaps the vastness of Antarctica. But today, we're journeying to a place that's secluded in a different sense, a place that's hidden not by distance, but by choice and circumstance. Welcome to North Sentinel Island. This tiny speck of land resting in the vast Bay of Bengal is one of the most isolated and least known places on our planet. It's a place so shrouded in mystery that even its exact geographical size is a subject of debate. Some say it's about the size of Manhattan, others argue it's smaller, but what we do know for certain is that this island is nestled amongst a labyrinth of coral reefs, making access by sea a daunting task. North Sentinel Island is not just geographically unique, it's also a place of remarkable natural beauty. Blanketed by dense forest, the island is a natural fortress, its rich green canopy hiding the world that exists beneath. Untouched by modern civilization, the island has remained a sanctuary for an abundance of wildlife, a living testament to a world before human intervention. The island's isolation is not only physical, it's cultural. Home to the Sentinelese, a tribe that has resisted contact with the outside world for centuries, North Sentinel Island is a place where time stands still. The Sentinelese have their own language, their own customs, their own way of life, and they've managed to preserve this in the face of a world that's constantly changing. But the Sentinelese are not just inhabitants of the island, they are its guardians. Their fierce protection of their home has deterred explorers, researchers, and the merely curious, adding another layer to the enigma that is North Sentinel Island. An island shrouded in mystery, North Sentinel Island holds many secrets yet to be unveiled. As we venture deeper into its story, remember, this is a place that defies our understanding of isolation and stands as a testament to the enduring power of nature and culture. Our story begins in the late 18th century with the island's discovery by the outside world. North Sentinel Island first appeared in the annals of recorded history in 1771, thanks to the keen eyes of British surveyor John Ritchie. Sailing past the Andaman Islands, Ritchie spotted this isolated landmass, marking the first known encounter between the Sentinelese and the wider world. But the Sentinelese were not eager for company. Early attempts by the British to establish contact were met with unwelcome receptions. Despite the barriers of language and culture, the message was clear. The Sentinelese wanted to be left alone. Perhaps the most infamous of these attempts occurred in the latter part of the 19th century. A certain Maurice Vidal Portman, an officer of the British Raj with a taste for adventure and a fascination with the Andaman tribes, led an expedition to North Sentinel in 1880. Portman's expedition, however, turned out to be a disastrous misadventure. The Sentinelese evaded the intruders, disappearing into the dense forest that blankets the island. Portman and his men did manage to capture 6 Sentinelese, but their captivity was devastating. Exposed to diseases against which they had no immunity, most of them died. Realizing the catastrophe they had unwittingly caused, the British quickly retreated, releasing the survivors back on North Sentinel. This tragic episode only reinforced the Sentinelese's distrust of outsiders. The island became a fortress, its inhabitants fiercely defending their isolation. In the face of such determined resistance, the British eventually gave up their attempts to establish contact. The island was left to its own devices, its people continuing their way of life undisturbed by the ebb and flow of world events. The early encounters set the stage for an enduring standoff between the outside world and the island's inhabitants. A standoff that would become one of the most intriguing and thought-provoking mysteries of our time. As the world progressed, the Sentinelese stood their ground, guarding their isolation fiercely. The 20th century brought numerous attempts to breach this isolation, yet the Sentinelese remained steadfast in their resolve, a bulwark against the encroaching tide of modernity. Take, for instance, the year 1974, when a National Geographic documentary team ventured to the island. Armed with gifts of coconuts and a plastic toy car, they hoped to establish contact, to bridge the gap between two vastly different worlds. Yet, they were met with a hail of arrows, a clear and unequivocal message from the Sentinelese. This wasn't a simple refusal, it was a vehement assertion of their desire for solitude and self-determination. 7 years later, in 1981, the freighter Primrose ran aground on the island's coral reefs. The crew, stranded and desperate, sent out distress signals. These signals were received, but the rescuers were met with an unexpected challenge. The Sentinelese, observing the shipwreck, formed a formidable human barrier on the beach, armed with bows and arrows. The standoff lasted for days, with the Sentinelese holding their ground until the crew was finally rescued by helicopter. These incidents, though fraught with danger and tension, underscore the Sentinelese's unwavering determination to maintain their isolation. It is a determination born out of an instinctual desire for self-preservation, a fierce defense of their way of life against the relentless march of modernity. In the face of repeated intrusions, the Sentinelese have chosen to stand their ground. They are a people who, despite the world's insatiable curiosity, have managed to maintain their sovereignty and their secrets. It is a testament to their resilience, a testament to the power of humanity's will to endure, to exist on their own terms, irrespective of the world outside. In a world increasingly connected, the Sentinelese remained an enigma, a testament to human resilience and the desire for sovereignty. In 2018, the world's attention was once again drawn to North Sentinel Island with a tragic incident. A young American missionary named John Allen Chau caught the headlines. With a heart filled with good intentions, but perhaps a head lacking in practical wisdom, Chau sought to spread his Christian faith to the isolated Sentinelese tribe. Chau embarked on his journey, undeterred by the known hostility of the Sentinelese and the Indian government's prohibitions. He made several attempts to reach the island, finally succeeding on his 5th attempt. However, this final journey proved fatal as he was reportedly killed by the tribe he so desperately wanted to reach. This incident sparked a global debate. On one hand, there was an outpouring of sympathy for a life tragically lost, a young man who was driven by his faith and desire to help others. On the other hand, there was a wave of criticism. Critics argued that Chau's actions were irresponsible and disrespectful, an unwelcome intrusion into a culture that had made it abundantly clear it wanted to be left alone. The incident also had significant political repercussions. It underscored the need for stronger enforcement of laws, protecting the Sentinelese and their way of life. While it is illegal to approach North Sentinel Island without permission, these laws had been loosely enforced, allowing Chau to reach the island. In the wake of Chau's death, the Indian government reaffirmed its commitment to protecting the Sentinelese from outside interference. The tragic case of John Allen Chau serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of disregarding the wishes and the autonomy of the Sentinelese people. It forces us to question the ethics of modern exploration and the right to cultural isolation. It compels us to consider the consequences of well-meaning yet misguided actions. Chau's ill-fated journey underscored the dangers of disrupting the Sentinelese's way of life. It is a somber tale that reminds us of the importance of respect for cultural diversity and the need for caution in our interactions with cultures different from our own. Today, North Sentinel Island stands as a unique symbol of isolation in our interconnected world. While we live in an age where the world is more connected than ever, this tiny island in the Indian Ocean remains an enigma, untouched by the waves of globalization. The Indian government, understanding the uniqueness and vulnerability of the Sentinelese people, has declared the island off-limits to visitors. This policy is not just about preserving the Sentinelese culture, but it's also about protecting the people from modern diseases to which they have no immunity. It's a delicate balance of respecting their desire for isolation while also ensuring their safety. But this approach is not without its challenges. Despite the restrictions, some outsiders have attempted to make contact, often with tragic results. The Sentinelese have made it clear that they want to be left alone, and any attempt to violate this wish puts them and their way of life in jeopardy. This brings us to the ethical dilemmas that arise when dealing with isolated tribes like the Sentinelese. Is it right to respect their wish for isolation, even if it means leaving them vulnerable to external threats? Or should we intervene and risk disrupting their way of life and exposing them to modern diseases? And then there's the question of their future. In a rapidly changing world, can the Sentinelese continue to live in isolation? What would happen if a natural disaster were to strike the island? These are questions that have no easy answers. The future of North Sentinel Island remains uncertain as the world grapples with the question of how to respect the wishes of its inhabitants while ensuring their survival. This tiny island, home to one of the last uncontacted tribes, stands as a testament to the diversity of human experience and reminds us of the enduring power of isolation in our hyper-connected world.